What is going on, LA Kings fans? I am your host, Rudy Hodgson. He is Jordan McConney, and as always, this is Forum Blues, powered by the Aletheo Network. Jordan, episode 4. These guys unfortunately gave us a microphone for a month now, and we are days away from opening night. The LA Kings, the season quickly back. Felt like a really short off season, but Jordan, here we are. Get to talk a little bit of LA Kings hockey before the season opens up on Thursday. How we feeling? How you doing? Talk to me a little bit, brother.
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it feels like that season just kind of crept up out of nowhere, and preseason flew by, and now we get to watch a real game on Thursday. So I'm nervous, but really excited. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You know, I think the Kings showed a lot of promise in preseason. I think we saw a little bit of everything. Some guys impressed, some didn't. That is to be expected in preseason, right? So it is exciting. I'm really excited to get to cover this season with you, and I'm excited to see what the Kings have in store for us. But let's talk about what we have in store for you today. So we're recording this on Monday night, which means you'll be hearing it on Tuesday morning. In just a couple moments before we hit record, the Kings announced their opening night roster. So you're going to get our raw reaction from the two of us of what we're seeing, what we're expecting, because Thursday right around the corner, and there are some names in there that are to be expected. There are some names in there that aren't in there that we were expecting to see. So let's go straight to the chase. Kings opening night roster. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I took a look at it right when I woke up like an hour ago. So
He's a nurse.
I was expecting to see, Andre Lee on there, who we don't see yet, but that's a yet. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And then we get every single one of the 6th or 7th defensemen that you could imagine in England, Burrows and Caleb Jones. So I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. I think they're being hyper cautious in the way that they, play this no Drew Doughty situation. But I mean, I hope I don't have to see too much more of Andreas Englund on the ice, but I digress. Kemper Riddick, exactly what I expected going into camp here.
Whoa.
But other than that,
cut it out. I'm going to call foul where I see it. You had Copley making your opening night roster.
It was the other way around. You had Copley.
I had Copley?
No. We can. Yeah, you did.
No.
We can go back to episode 1, but yeah.
Are you serious? Did I actually have Copley?
Mm-hmm.
Dang. All right, my fault. I honestly thought you had Copley starting the season.
No, it was the other way around. But yeah, so other than that, the roster kind of looks like what I expected it to look like. So what do you got, and how do you feel about the overload of defensemen we got on that list?
Well, I'll start off with what you said. I was also expecting to see Andre Lee, but it does kind of look like it could be a paper transaction later, maybe as early as tomorrow, or in your case, the listener, this morning. There are 8 defensemen. Was not expecting to see 8 defensemen. If you would have told me a month ago that Caleb Jones would have been on the opening night roster, I would have probably strongly disagreed. And that's okay. I mean, the Kings are dealing with what they've been dealt. I think they're handling it very well. I'm not going to say I was not a fan or a fan of the way Kyle Burrows played, but we don't need Kyle Burrows to be Drew Doughty. We need Kyle Burrows to be Kyle Burrows. And if he can provide what we expect him to provide, he's going to be fine. And you also have to remember, the only reason why Clark is on that third pairing with Edmonton is because that's where they feel comfortable playing the youngster right now. Again, we don't need anybody to be Drew Doughty. No one can ever replicate what he brought to the table. That's what made him so unique, especially with the amount of longevity that he has had. We can have a grace period and be okay. That is what the Kings have been dealt with. They're going to have to deal with it. I think they're going to handle it just fine. They're not as deep as other teams defensively in the Western Conference, but if the offense is what we hope the offense can be, hopefully they can out-offense their problems. And Kemper is going to have to be sharp early. We know that. We know what we expect out of Darcy Kemper. Hopefully it's a Cam Talbot type situation where he surprises us, although there is a little bit of a change in system. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We just need the Kings to be the Kings that they are right now. You're not going to dress all 8. I think Jones does not dress opening night. I don't even think Englund dresses. I think it's going to be Burroughs in that second pairing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if we have to see 11-7 again this year, I think I might jump off a bridge.
I mean, I don't want to see it either, right? I mean, it definitely seems like the Kings are dealing with what they've been dealt with the way we expected them to deal with it. They're doing what they can with who they have. And that is where we're at. I mean, let's talk about the 12 forwards that we have.
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, listen, I understand and I respect that Trevor Lewis is going to get his 20 some odd games to get 1,000, and he deserves that. He is a veteran, won 2 Stanley Cups, provided a lot of big moments in Kings history. He deserves that, especially when you consider where the Kings are right now and where he fits into the scheme. We're not expecting him to get 15 to 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, he's fourth line guy, grit guy, playing with young legs. He's going to be serviceable as well, right? That is what this roster is, and that's what those 12 forwards are.
Yeah, I mean, as unexciting as Trevor Lewis is, I think your favorite word says it best. He's serviceable, and he's going to provide, some leadership for the young talent on his line, and we'll give him what he's due, and he'll play exactly the role that we expect him to play on this line.
Now, I did want to talk to you a little bit when we were prepping for the show. One of the things that I already had listed was Andre Lee. There were reports of him being on this roster. And if you look closely, Kings fans, there's 22 names on this roster. So you can have 23. So who knows what the future looks like tomorrow, on the 9th, even on the 10th. But Andre Lee has impressed. He has looked really good. And to me, I had him on my notes as this year's Alex Lafreniere year, where everyone was expecting him to make a jump at some point. It just was not very shocking, but it was very surprising to see him take that jump now. What do you think of the youngster? He's been sharp. He's looked really good. I think he deserves an opening night spot. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from Andre Lee. He's one of those guys that down there in Ontario, I've got to watch the last couple of years, and he has played those top 6 minutes with guys that he's projected to play with on the LA Kings in Akil Thomas and Alex Turcotte. So there is some chemistry there. There's some familiarity there, much, size and even some grit to that fourth line. I believe he did drop the gloves there in preseason game. But, he's got the size, he's got the length, and I think he provides, like I said, like that connection to Thomas and Turcotte that we may need and to see them provide some more offense versus what we have with Trevor Lewis, which is, a little more positionally sound forward who's not as offensively minded. So I'm excited to see what Andre Lee can contribute if and when he does get the call to play on that fourth line.
One thing we're going to contribute to you, my friend, is a better Wi-Fi package, because we apologize for those at home. Little difficulties there on the Wi-Fi end, but hey, we're just getting cooking here, so all is well. But based on what I was able to gather, yes, I agree with everything that you said. He is he does have top 6 experience, yes, at the AHL level, but you can't look at a line like Lee, Turcotte, and Thomas and not get excited. Like, that is such a strong, youthful fourth line. And that is a fourth line that is not going to get fourth line traditional minutes. If they can develop at the rate in which they are developing and be, I'm going to say it again, serviceable at the NHL level, that is a line that, in some other teams in the league, probably more lower bottom 15 teams, that's a third line. That's maybe even a staggering second and third line couple of guys, especially when you look at Turcotte and Thomas. But going back to Andre Lee, 23 years young, just completed his second season in Ontario, had 13 points in 36 games, was really good in the postseason, looked really, really sharp. Again, I had him, I touted him as the LaFerriere of this preseason. I think he's been incredibly impressive. I think he has all the intangibles that the Kings need, especially in the bottom six. He's strong. He's not going to take anything from anyone. He's skillful. I mean, he can play. You know what I mean? Like, that is his identity, and I think that identity complements a line like Turcotte and Thomas really, really well. It is not a matter of if we're going to see that line. It's a matter of when. Would you concur?
Yeah, no, I can absolutely agree with that.
So, Andre Lee, we hope to see you in a Kings sweater quite soon. We'll see if there are any paper transactions that lead the other way. We're not going to speculate. We're not going to report. We're just a couple of guys taking the information we see, regurgitating it, giving our take. And with that in mind, let's talk about how preseason rounded out. So the Kings finished 3-2-1. The highlight had to be QB 55, Byfield. Dynamite. He looked so good, especially in that game against Boston in Quebec, where the Kings took down the Bees up north. Byfield had a hat trick. I mean, this is the guy that we were promised. He looks good, Jordan.
Yeah, with Byfield, the biggest thing with him, I've talked about it for a few seasons now, the confidence is there. And when the confidence is there for a player of his stature and his skill, that's going to be very, very scary for other teams. I mean, you saw him on that first goal in Quebec against Boston on that 2-on-1 with Fiala, stopped up and immediately knew that he was going to take that one-timer. There was no hesitation. There was no standoffishness in that drive to the net. He knew what the play was, and he ripped the shot with confidence. It went in, and he went on to score 2 more. He looks very strong on the ice. He's not afraid to throw his body around now, which is something we haven't seen as much in the past couple seasons with Byfield. I'm really excited to see what this season holds, and I'm really high on Quinton Byfield this year.
I think what impressed me the most about Byfield is the way he asserted himself offensively during the preseason. He's not afraid to make decisions now. When you're playing with Kopitar, you're kind of going at his pace. You're kind of going at what he's willing to provide. And yes, Kopitar is a playmaker and he's elite. He still is the guy for the Kings. But Byfield being able to establish his style of play with a line that he has chemistry with, I think is such a scary thought if you're an opposing team in the Pacific. Because guess what? This kid is no longer coming. He's here, and he's here now. And Byfield, granted, yes, it's preseason. Are we overreacting? Maybe. But this is where you kind of establish your identity, right? This is where you try things. This is where you kind of see where you're at. And even though there's a lot of discussion as to whether some of these guys should be playing in preseason, Quinton Byfield should absolutely be dominating in preseason. That is who he needs to be. So, I guess long story long, Byfield, the way he's been able to develop, the way it looks like he's physically and, dare I say, emotionally, just based on like his confidence, taking a step forward this year has to be promising, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I don't even have the words to express how high I am on this guy. And I think he's going to surpass the expectations of a lot of people who aren't Kings fans that don't really, see him in that way yet. But I do think he's got a lot of respect out there in the league and a lot of different people talking about him. So I can't wait to see what this year holds for Quinton Byfield.
One of the things that I really love about the Los Angeles Kings is their content team. I am a huge fan of long form content, and I think you know where I'm going with this. I love black and white. I think there needs to be more of that, because here's the thing: as consumers of sports, we want access. We love access, and that's something that in my day job we try to provide, is access. Being able to see the work Quinton Byfield is putting in the offseason, getting to see how he takes his own development, along with seeing Akil Thomas's, along with seeing Warren Fogel's, seeing these guys together in the offseason, working together, to me is incredibly fun to watch because it's kind of like you're investing your own time and energy into seeing this guy invest his time and energy into his craft, because ultimately he wants to win. We want to see him win, and we want to see them win immediately. So all that to say, you look at the way Byfield took this offseason to physically get stronger, to really take himself seriously and put himself in a position to be the next Kopitar after Kopitar is done, or after Kopitar has slowed down a little bit. You know, that's Father Time is undefeated. Byfield, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. What are you seeing in his game that now in these 4 games of preseason that you just didn't really see last year?
Yeah, my biggest thing that I already talked about was the confidence. I think there's, like you talked about with him playing with Kopitar, it was, let me wait for my line mates to make the first move and fit in. He wanted to fit in, and he did just that. His skill worked right into the way that Kopitar and Adrian Kempe played, and he fit in and he contributed that way. But now this is his line, and this is Quinton Byfield's time, and he has guys that are going to attempt to wrap their game around the way that Quinton Byfield plays. And I think that that's going to unlock a whole new level to this kid's game that we haven't seen yet, because we haven't seen him headline a line like this in the NHL. We've seen him do it at the junior level. We've seen him do it, you know, with Team Canada in the junior tournaments. Mm-hmm. But now we get to see it at the NHL level. And I think the Kings developed him perfectly. And I think he's just now arriving to being ready to do that. And we see it on the ice. We see it in the preseason. He's confident out there, and he's letting his skill and his hockey IQ do the work.
Jordan, let's talk about special teams.
Can I ask you guys a question about Quinton Byfield?
God, is that you?
Yeah, it is.
Spooked me a little bit.
Could I ask you, do you guys think Quinton Byfield could score 90 points this year?
No.
Oh, really?
We don't. I mean, I'd love to. Jordan, I'll let you chime in a second here. I'm not looking for, I mean, yes, we're looking for point production out of Quinton Byfield, but that's not what the benchmark should be for Quinton Byfield right now. I think for Byfield, his focus should be on establishing his style of play and his brand, so to speak, into what the Kings are trying to build. And as a result, it's going to lead to points. I think putting a benchmark at it is maybe a little unfair, because we have to remember the kid's still 21, 22, right? Like it's not his team yet, but he's setting himself up to be the guy. So if April comes around and the Kings are in or out of the postseason, the conversation is still going to be the same. How did Quinton Byfield look this April as opposed to last April? I think that he is the LA Kings right now.
Yeah.
So I just want to see him take that next step forward. I'm not going to put points, any kind of that pressure on the kid. I mean, he's still a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like putting a number on it. Obviously, I have a number in my head. 90 is far above the number I have in my head.
What do you have? What is your number
this year?
What is your number?
70.
Okay, I was thinking 75. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
75 is like my ceiling, like in my head. That's where I want him to be. But my baseline, my floor expectation is that 67 to 70 point range.
Tassos, sorry.
You're good.
Tassos, I'm gonna give you some homework real quick. Can you give me the last time the LA Kings had someone score 100 or more points in a single season?
I was just doing that. I was literally on my phone looking that up. But go ahead, Tassos. Give us the last 100-point LA King.
I mean, I'm obviously not gonna like. I think it's been a while, which is why I ask. So I'm not, no pressure if it takes you a while, but like I think that's kind of like the mentality that Kings fans and people that cover the Kings. And
do you guys want the answer?
Yeah, please.
It was Wayne Gretzky in 93-94 with 130 points in 81 games.
I haven't seen a 100-point player wear the LA King logo on their chest in my lifetime. And here we are.
He did it for the last 6 times.
Good God. Really? Is Robitaille not?
He's the other 2.
You see, hey, Kings fans, listen, I'm one of you. I'm one of you, baby. I'm one of you. I knew. And then before that had to be. I'm not gonna.
The next player to come up is Bernie Nichols at 9.
Okay, I had Bernie Nichols.
We're talking most recent.
Yeah, I think Bernie Nichols. Did Yari Curry have a 100-point season?
No, not with the Kings.
Who else?
Jimmy Carson.
Damn. Killing me, Tassos. I'm thinking.
Sorry.
Man, but I mean, before Carson, probably like Dion. That's it.
Yep.
That's probably it.
No, Dave Taylor.
Oh, Dave Taylor was a dog. So I hear. I wasn't alive for it. So I hear.
Charlie
90,
Summer,
93, 94, bro.
Yeah, we haven't seen one in our lifetime.
No, and that's not the identity of the LA Kings. That's why I immediately said no to that 90-point prediction, because that's just never what we've expected LA Kings to do. And
A
we've
little
always been a
40-50
secondary scoring
season.
team.
40 goals, 50 assists.
If Quinton Byfield
Good
scores
Lord.
40 goals, I will do anything to see a 40 goal score in Quinton Byfield in 2024-25. I don't think it's going to happen. But that's not to say it can't happen. It can't. I'm not saying it won't or it can't. I just don't think that should be where we put this kid right now. I mean, I'd be curious how many 100-point how many 90-point seasons does Anze Kopitar have? It can't be that many.
2, maybe.
Like that's kind of where we're at, you know. The Kings have never really had the superstar, but I think that is fine, because when you don't have a super duper star, like, that gives you the cap room to build around the top guys you do have. Because, like, then you get a situation like the Oilers where, like, they're going to pay McDavid the farm, and they already gave the cows and the other animals to Draisaitl. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think it's really sustainable until the cap really, really goes up and you can diversify the way you pay guys or build a roster. Like, I'm not a general manager.
Kopitar has had one 90-point season in the NHL.
Oh my God, Jordan.
You don't think Quinton Byfield has a higher offensive potential than Anze Kopitar?
I didn't say that.
We're talking about this season.
Yeah. The question was this season. I think Quinton Byfield can have 3 to 4. I mean, I could see a world where that kid puts up. Okay, maybe not 100, but I was about to get delirious with my
55 points last season. So we're not expecting a 35-point.
Yeah. It was a fair question. It was a fair question. Keep in mind.
I mean, I've heard it. You know, the past couple days here, like in comment sections and stuff, and it's a bit of a it's a very, very outlandish take, I think.
I want to go outlandish. I just think maybe, and Tassos, chime in, defend yourself a little bit here. I just think that he doesn't know the Kings' identity the way you and I know the Kings' identity. So you look at someone that's a number 2 draft pick, and especially with how other high draft picks in recent years have produced those kind of numbers, you kind of tend to expect that. So, like, I don't think it's an outlandish question. I just don't think that is. I just don't think that's what the Kings need him to be right now. Like, as long as he shows progression, I think if Quinton Byfield finishes the regular season with 60 points, I am an incredibly happy man, because that means that he got better, and that probably means that he's going to continue to get better.
I'll stand up for myself a little bit, actually,
hit me,
since I'm
me.
producing the show today.
Let's do it.
No, well, I was just asking you guys because it was a fun thing I bandied about earlier. But I just think he's like learning how to take over games more.
Yeah.
Like, he's learning how to have an impact like every time he steps on the ice now. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to have a lot more of these, maybe not hat trick every night games, but, just bigger scoring bursts. I don't know that, like, I'd cap him at 65 points. If I were a betting man, I'd probably take the over on whatever it is that 55 had, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if the question was, can Quinton Byfield be a 90-point scorer in the NHL at some point, I would take that gamble today.
Yeah, I would say yes to that as well.
But in 2024-25, again, I don't want to put a number on him just because, like, I think numbers are great. Just show me that you are becoming the guy we need you to become. And once we see that, then we can start talking about point production and all that stuff. I'm sure Kings management and coaching staff have a number for him as far as what they project he can get. But you know what? Like, that's between team and player. Who are we to put those kind of expectations on a kid we don't know, right? Who are we to say Quinton Byfield is not good enough to put up 90? Because we don't know. We don't know. But we can not speculate. I hate that word. We can guess.
That's kind of our job here is to guess, huh?
Yeah, but Byfield, man,
takes.
He's the truth. He is the
Looks
truth.
good, man. Looks really good.
He's the truth.
I can't talk about that guy enough.
And
but I think that was a great topic to talk about, just because I know a lot of Kings fans are, you know, spitballing their numbers in comment sections and stuff, and that was a good insight. I feel like giving that. Well, Wayne Gretzky was the last 100-point scorer before we were alive.
That's crazy. I knew it was way back there, and I knew I hadn't seen one, but I was curious who the last one was. Tassos, if you have any more Kings questions, you know, this is an open mailbag. So
no, I would just my big thing about the Kings is, well, what does Quinton Byfield look like? But it's also, what does Kevin Fiala look like? A lot.
Yeah.
You know, how bad does that guy want it? How bad is he gonna learn to play the way that they play in order to, you know, be successful in his own right and in what he does, because they need him to kind of be a game breaker from time to time. It can't just be Adrian Kempe, I feel like, and Byfield and some of the, you know, Kopitar and all that. Trevor Moore's been really good, but yeah, I don't know. Fiala is an enigma for me for sure. I don't really, you know, he needs to do more a little bit for the Kings to be successful in my mind. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to chime in on this. I think we're going to get to see Kevin Fiala be Kevin Fiala this year because of us getting rid of the trap system. And I think he's going to be happier playing his game, which is going to lead to more point production. I'll keep it short and sweet. What do you got, Rudy?
Okay, listen, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid and be honest. I worry about Kevin Fiala a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I think he could definitely finish the season with the most points on the team. You kind of almost expect him to if he stays healthy. But here's the thing that I'm kind of scared of is, yes, we are switching the system and he gets to play a more creative style. The problem there is, while Fiala has proven to me and himself and the league and the team, everyone that he's needed to prove to, that he is a capable offensive threat every time he's on the ice, the one thing he has not been able to prove, to me at least, I can't speak to anyone else, but to me, is that what he does offensively, he will pick up defensively when it doesn't work. That is where I feel like Kevin Fiala is the biggest liability. He's going to get his points. He's going to get his chances. He's going to get his goals, his assists, everything. He can be the most talented guy on the ice at any given moment he chooses to be. The problem is when you're off the puck, when you need a stop, can Kevin Fiala be trusted on the ice in big moments? That remains to be seen. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. But that is where I stand on Fiala. Fiala is great as an individual. Fantastic guy. I love that he's in LA. I think he can be the guy for the Kings this year as well. But, you know, it's a team game. There's 20 other guys in that bench. And they need someone that's going to put up potentially 80 points a season to be a reliable guy in crunch time. That is the next step for Kevin Fiala. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, my biggest thing with Fiala is, like you said, when his game isn't working, he tends to just kind of play stupid. They take the dumb penalties and he'll make the dumb plays. And he, for the most part, from what I've seen from Kev, is he'll always, make up for it. But we want to kind of see him in that space where there's nothing to make up for, and it's he's there defensively. And I'm not saying he always has to make the perfect play, because I don't expect that from a guy as offensively talented as Kevin Fiala. But I'd like to see the mistakes held to a minimum and a little bit more discipline there. But I do want to see him, do his thing offensively as well.
It's kind of like Kempe a little bit, right? Where Kempe found the sweet spot where he has all this offensive awareness and he has the shot, he has the smarts. But earlier on in his career, he kind of was just kind of feeling it out, and he was making those similar mistakes. Like, to me, he kind of looked like a player that was headed in the trajectory of what we're talking about now with Kevin Fiala. But, he used his sizes to his advantage. He's good on the back check. He controls the neutral zone well. Like, the 1-3-1, whether you hate it or you love it, it worked for those years with that team. They needed to maintain that defensive identity that the Kings always really had, right? Like, that system made sense. If you can't come to grips with that, I just don't think you really understand that brand of Kings hockey. It didn't work. It wasn't meant to be over 3 to 4 seasons, but that was just the way McClellan liked to play. And it worked. Like, I think people forget that the Kings were in the hunt for the President's Trophy last year at one point. Like, if they don't go on that skid and fire McClellan, who knows what the Kings really look like, right? So, like, the system, whether you hate it or you love it, it worked. So, like, you can't steer too far away from a formula that found success. That said, I like where the Kings are headed. I trust Jim Hiller to make the decisions systematically that he needs to make. I thought the Kings on the counter looked fabulous. I think that the way that they exploited a Bruins system, albeit not their full team, and it was preseason, they were able to create a lot of odd man rushes off of being more aggressive in their own blue line, not letting the play come to them. That is the adjustment that I wanted to see on the 1-3-1 was, how can you be more dangerous on the counter? You already know you're going to stop them once they pass the red line. It's what are you going to do with the puck when you have it? And Jim Hiller has been dynamite in doing that. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, I think the Kings look explosive, and we talked about a little bit, mentioned special teams. You talk about the PK, you look at the amount of shorthanded goals that we had in the preseason, the amount of odd man rushes that more aggressive PK created. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like this year. But the Kings have been, exploding out of the offensive zone with a purpose, which is something we haven't really seen as much in the last few seasons.
I agree. And I'm glad you touched on the PK, because that was one of the things that I put down in our notes. I used to hate watching the PK when we played against Edmonton.
It was painful.
Because
it was so painful.
You let the play come to you, you're bound to give up chances. Because the thing is the Kings kind of played in a little bit of like a rotating diamond, right? Where like the job was to protect the house, but the thing is you beat that with perimeter play and then like interior penetration.
Seam passes, yeah.
Right. And that's how the Kings got exploited, is because once they rotate and the bottom guy moves in front of the crease, it creates that space for the 1T, and that's how Draisaitl like butchered us in the postseason. There is the argument to be made that when you are more aggressive on the PK, you're going to create more space for them. But the thing is if you basically clog those passing areas with sticks and bodies and everything, you don't really give them the chance. It's going to take the perfect pass, or it's going to take a quick 1-2 around the perimeter. You know what I mean? Like there's give and take, and I like the give that the Kings are taking right now.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what aggressive PKs did to the Kings. You look at what Florida did to the Kings in the preseason. It just makes the power play fall apart. And when power plays aren't clicking and they can't do what they want to do versus with Edmonton, we just kind of let them do whatever they wanted to do and just stood back. When you don't allow teams to do what they want to do in the power play, they fall apart and they get frustrated. And a frustrated power play is never a good power play.
I agree. And that's one of the things that like was really interesting about those cup teams. Like they were so reliant on moving the puck around the perimeter and basically just kind of hoping that someone at some point was going to find a chance to penetrate. And then they just all hell breaks loose in the crease. It's basically like, who is going to find the puck in the crease? And that works in a 7-game series, but over the course of 82, it really doesn't. It's going to falter. I can't remember off the top of my head where the Kings were power play wise during those cup runs, particularly the 2012 season. I can't imagine it was super, super great. But what I do remember was that PK. You know what I mean? Like good defense is always going to lead to offense. Like that is just the name of the game. You limit them, you make them pay for the mistakes that they make. You let the game come to you. That was what was so poetic about the 1-3-1. Whether you hate it or you love it. Like that was the point. Because the Kings didn't feel like they had that McDavid game breaker type player that could, at any given moment, put up 2 goals in a game. Like it was always going to be scoring by committee. That was the Kings' identity. So I'm really interested to see where they're going to be this year. Because one of the things that you and I talked about was, where is that secondary scoring really going to come from, right? You have Moore, you have Kempe, you have Fogle, you obviously have Byfield. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be those guys. If each of those guys can combine for between 35 to 65 points between those top 6 players, the Kings are going to be in great shape.
Yeah, I agree. And if you want to talk about secondary scoring, we can go further down the line. You want to talk about the new acquisition in Tanner Jeannot and what you expect out of him and what you expect out of the younger guys in Turcotte and Thomas, and then maybe lead down the line.
We will see where it all shakes out. But let's talk about the defense. Okay. You put down in our rundown Brandt Clarke expectations. I'm curious why you did and what you have to say about the youngster.
Yeah, no, for Brandt Clarke, I think that's, aside from Byfield, every LA Kings fan's favorite topic right now because, they want to see him step up. With Drew Doughty going down, they want to see him fill a role. And that's too much to ask, in my opinion. I think you share the same opinion, but I'm just really excited to see what he has to offer on that power play 1 unit. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about Brandt Clarke. And we saw a little bit of it in the preseason. We saw him quarterback that power play. And I think it's come along a lot since the first time we got to see him do it in the game. But that is what I'm most excited for and looking forward to this season for Brandt.
You never want to see anyone go down. Let's start with that, especially a player of Drew Doughty's caliber, and especially with what he means to this franchise. And number 8 is going to be glistening above the Crypto.com arena. Almost said the other one. Sorry, force of habit. At some point when he's done playing. All that to say, if one positive comes from that injury, and I never want to see the injury, I hate that I'm even saying this, I hope it's that Brandt Clarke sees it as an opportunity to make the defense his own. You know what I mean? Like Elliot Friedman said it best on 32 Thoughts. One player's verbatim, I can't not really repeat, but the gist of it was, one player's injury is another player's opportunity. That could be it for Brandt Clarke. I mean, that could be his open window where it's like, you were kind of maybe an in-betweener as far as how much we really wanted to push you in the first 5-10 games, to now it's like, guess what, buddy? You're going to get consistent minutes. You're with a guy like Edmondson. We trust him back there with you. Be the guy you want to be, because there's no shortage of confidence with that young man. He knows how good he is. He knows how good he can be. It's just a matter of how quickly can it translate to the NHL level.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to see the opportunity there. It's his power play, and he gets to play with top end talent on that power play and show off the creativity that he does have. He's confident in that part of his game. I know the Kings have been working on the defensive side a little more, trying to limit the mistakes. And I think that'll come with time. That's the part that he has to work on. And Brant's aware of it. He knows that that's been a focus for, the past couple seasons here. Even like down in Ontario, it was, where's your defensive game and how can we, develop it? Because we know you have all the offensive talent in the world.
Yeah, I think you're 110% right. I mean, it's so interesting we've been spoiled with the Drew, really, but it's so interesting going through this cycle again where we have what it feels to be a fourth forward on the ice sometimes. Like, it's so interesting. Like, I always think and I've talked about this before on the pod, the way Doughty asserted himself in those 2012 playoffs, the way he was able to really anchor the blue line but still provide offense was remarkable to me.
Incredible.
Really was.
Especially at his age at the time.
Yeah, he was young. He was incredibly young. That, I'm not saying, listen, like I said earlier, I'm not expecting Brant Clark to be Drew Doughty. Not right now. If he turns out to be even half of what Doughty was, he's going to be an excellent elite defenseman at the NHL level. Similarly to Byfield, on different scales, I just want to see progression. Show me that you're becoming the player you want to be. That is what it's so interesting about this Kings team this year is they can contend is a really strong word, but they can compete with the best teams in the NHL. But they're also young enough where those prospects are still raw. It's a weird balance. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde team where it's like on one night, the Bruins game, they look like an absolute wrecking ball forced to be reckoned with. But then they look extremely human when they play against a team like Florida.
Yeah, they got humbled by Florida.
That's what's going to be so interesting over the course of 82 games is what Kings team are we going to see on every given night? And ultimately, is it going to lead to a postseason berth? Who knows? So that's where I stand on Brant Clark. That's where you stand on Brant Clark. I think it's a fascinating conversation and a very fair one. But we will see how the rest of this season shakes out. I mean, it starts in a couple days here, Jordan. Next time you hear our voices, we're going to be talking about it. So with that said, let's talk about the regular season. Here we are. Kings open up their season on October 10th, 4:30 Pacific, 6:30 Chicago time. That's where I am. 7:30 local against the Buffalo Sabres, who had a tough start to the season. I have it down here. This is, obviously it's way too early to say something like this, but does it kind of feel like a trap game? Like this is a Buffalo team that people were kind of hoping takes the next step. They open up with two really, really tough losses. But here they are, their home opener. They're back in the States. They play against a Kings team that we don't really know what their identity is quite yet. What are you expecting out of that game?
I'm extremely nervous. I'm very excited for the season to start, but I'm extremely nervous for the Kings to go to Buffalo because you look at, historically, the trip to Buffalo hasn't been fun. And Buffalo is one of those younger teams with a lot of speed and a lot of talent who kind of gets exploited by stronger, top of the league NHL teams. And, we saw that with New Jersey.
Sound familiar, guys?
But I'm really, really nervous for, what the speed is going to do to a Kings team that is in the middle of a transition period between the 1-3-1 into their new system. So how do you feel about the Kings going to Buffalo this Thursday?
I'm going to start with a question for Tassos. You got me back there?
Yeah. What's up?
Can you give me Kings historically how they play in Buffalo by chance?
I'll do my best.
Okay. While he's doing that, I'll tell you what I expect on Thursday. The Kings are going to have to survive the first 10 minutes of that game because Buffalo's going to come out hot, I think. I think that they're going to try to pounce on a Kings team that hasn't really played. Let me rephrase that. They're going to play against a Kings team that is going to be playing their full roster for the first real time, right? Because we haven't really seen the entire group. Like, it's kind of what you expect out of the last game of preseason. You didn't really see it, at least to me.
Do you want the fun answer?
Sure.
So, the Kings all time against the Sabres are 66-48, or the Sabres are 66-49 and 18.
That checks out.
Yeah. Really bad in this, or pretty good. Hold on. This is the Sabres. They're 3-3 in the 2020s and 6 games in the 2020s. Yeah, the Sabres have the edge, though. Totally.
Okay. I'm going to also look something up on the fly. If you're listening at home, whatever. I'm going to try to find this game, or Taz, if you wouldn't mind helping me out. One of the most humbling, embarrassing moments of my youth was, and I think it was around Christmas time, I saw with my father the Kings play in Buffalo, and they were wearing, I believe, to be red alternate jerseys, I think. And I remember thinking to myself, these Sabre jerseys are so mid. I was going to say an expletive, but I decided not to, so I went with something a little more current, mid. I think the Kings lost like 8-1, 10-1. It was like 2006 or 7. And I'll never forget watching that game and watching the Kings get absolutely trounced. From that point forward, I always feel like we lose in Buffalo. There's something about it. I can't remember when was the last time we won in Buffalo. That is for more talented SID folks to discover. But this game, survive the first 10 minutes. I think they're going to bounce. I wouldn't be surprised if we catch a red hot goaltender as well. Who gets the nod? Is it going to be? They have 2 really strong young netminders down there in Buffalo. Huge on Levi. Matter of fact, let's talk about Levi. What if he does get the nod? Didn't really have his best performance. Was good, but that's a guy that could take a step.
I think I'm a big Devin Levi supporter, but I do think he has a lot on his shoulders this year, going into his second year in the NHL, where the first one was okay, but it's different because he's not coming into a team where it's not like here's the starting job. It's
right.
There's Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen down there who is just another fantastic young goaltender, and if Levi wants a starting job, he's going to have to steal it, and the only way he does that is by performing. So I do think there's a lot of pressure on him, but the talent there is unbelievable.
I agree, man. I love watching young netminders kind of find their way. And the Kings, it doesn't get much easier because a couple days after that, they have to play another really strong goaltender who a couple days ago, I didn't think we were going to have to deal with this guy. And now we do. Jeremy Swayman will probably be in net when the Kings play against the Bruins 2 days after their season opener. And remember, folks, because of renovations and all that stuff at Crypto, the Kings open up their season on, I believe, a 7-game road streak.
Yeah, 7 games on the road.
So, we have this kind of lined up, and I'm going to tee it up now. Between the time you hear this episode and the next time you hear us, the Kings will have played 3 games by that point. For us, it'll be 2 because we're going to record before the game on Monday so we can watch. What is a good, reasonable start for the Kings in this 3-game stretch?
That's a tough one. I think, like we talked about, Buffalo's going to come out like a bat out of hell. I'm sure their coach reamed them for their opening performance, and they're going to want it. Buffalo's going to want it. So that's going to be a tough game, as it always is in Buffalo. Boston's always strong, so that's another scary game. I know we beat Brant Clark's first NHL goal was that OT winner, which was, fantastic to watch, but Boston's always solid. It's going to be scary. And then Ottawa is a team who, kind of failed to meet expectations in recent years. And I do think that they're going to take a step forward this year. So 3 very tough matchups. As far as what I expect out of the results, I would love to see the Kings get 3 points.
Okay. I think the Kings go 2-1-0. The Kings somehow, some way, wouldn't shock me if it's another overtime win. Find ways to win in Boston. They just do. I think in the last 3-4 seasons, most, if not all, of the Kings' wins have come in overtime. And Tennessee scored. I remember Toffoli's goal. That was a while back. Yep. Clark scored in overtime. Just kind of feels like the Kings find ways in Boston. So I think the Kings find a way to steal one against a really, really tough Boston team. I think they lose that opener against Buffalo. And then I think that they take Ottawa. I think that'll be the game where the Kings kind of piece it all together and get a good, complete team win. That third game of the season against Ottawa. An Ottawa team that, that's where I stand on Ottawa. They're kind of, I don't know what that situation is going to look like over there. But I think Kings finish, or Kings start 2-1-0 this week.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I think we go 1-1-1. But and then that game for Monday, that game against Ottawa is at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so it'll be noon over there for you. Yep. So we'll be recording after we see 3 Kings hockey games.
Oh, good flag. Very, very nice. Yes, so we will have fresh reactions to the Kings game against Ottawa. I might have to watch it from work, but that is okay. Don't tell my employers. Let's wrap up the show the way it looks like we're going to wrap up the show for the foreseeable future. Name that random LA King. Jordan really liked this segment. Last week, he only got one right, Michael Handzus. Today, I get to answer questions, and I feel like I've done the majority of the talking today, George. So I'll let you kick it off. Name that random LA King. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start, a little cap-off segment here. The first random LA Kings player was drafted in 2007 in the second round, 52nd overall by the LA Kings. He was up and down in the NHL and AHL for his time with the Kings. First season was 08-09. Second season was 2010,
Oscar
2011.
Moeller.
Yeah, that was fast.
Oscar Moeller. I know that name. You want
that one's really familiar to me. That one I didn't even really have to do much research on, but go ahead.
Yeah, when you said first season 07-08, I was like, okay, so he played with Doughty. And the reason why I remember this is because at the time my family were season ticket holders. The Kings gave away to season ticket holders a photo of Doughty, Simmons, and Moeller together. And Moeller was always the third man out. So I remember Oscar Moeller, and remember that when the Kings used to do those All-Star game commercials, he was one of the guys, not pushing for an All-Star candidacy, but one of the young guys. What a fun commercial! Remember when the Kings used to do that? One of the things that I still quote around the house is "Vote for Lubo." Don't forget. Do you remember that one?
That sounds very familiar.
He's like, cookies for you.
I think in a recent memory, my favorite Kings commercials got to be one of the Kopitar ones, because seeing Kopitar act is always so funny.
There was one where they were doing the statues. I think it was him, Brown. Man, that's crazy Kings lore. That was a pull, that commercial. But anyways, Oscar
okay,
Mueller.
one for one. Oscar
One
Mueller.
for one. Was that your
Did
easy
you,
one?
Did you guys know that he retired today?
What?
Did he
Yeah.
really? And from the SHL?
Yeah.
Wait. So did you know that he retired today, Jordan?
No,
So that
that
just
was
happened.
that was just the first LA King that came to my head.
So that just happened. We just so happened to talk about Oscar Mueller randomly the day he retired.
Interesting. Has he like 32?
35.
35.
Played 87 games in the NHL, all with the Kings.
Yep.
Yeah, well, nobody was picking him.
12 goals, 26 points.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I was
Congrats
at
to
his.
Oscar Mueller on a very long pro career there.
Congrats. That's all
What
I
were
got
you
for
saying?
Was
What were
that
you saying?
was that the easy one?
That was probably the second easiest one.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going 3 for 3.
You might. All right, here we go. All right. This random LA Kings player was drafted in 1994.
Okay.
And he didn't play with the Kings until the tail end of his NHL career, which he signed a 2-year, $6 million contract with them. He only played 33 games with the Kings, and his career was riddled by injuries and frustration.
So he was drafted by the Kings in 94.
No, he wasn't drafted by the Kings.
Okay,
He was drafted in 1994.
Threw me off. Drafted in 1994, played the last 2 years of his career with LA.
Last 2 years of his NHL career, yeah.
Is that Vinny LeCavalier?
Mm-mm. So his last year in the NHL.
LeCavalier only played like half a season with the Kings in 17.
Yeah. Okay, so his last season in the NHL was 07-08.
Oh.
And I have 2 more hints for you if you can. So I'll give you 2 minutes here, 3 minutes, and we'll.
Okay. Drafted in 94. Finished his career with the Kings in 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
2 years with LA. I'm trying to think of the 2008 team. Not a lot. It's not Ryan Smith because he played up until 2010. Forward or defenseman? Is he a goalie?
He's a goalie.
Is it Dan Cloutier?
Dude, you're too good at this.
Oh, baby, I am not to be played with.
So yeah, drafted in 1994, first round, 26th overall, and then the Kings acquired by the Islanders, I believe, and the Kings acquired him from Vancouver before the 06-07 season, signed him to a 2-year, $6 million contract. Up and down, very emotional goalie. Got into a couple of fights in his career.
I'll say
he did even have some accusations against the LA Kings after his career that they encouraged him to play while hurt, and that when his wife was pregnant, they like kind of cooped him up in a hotel and like didn't offer them like any like other place to live. And he finished his career with the Rockford was it Ice
Hogs?
What is it?
Ice Hogs?
Ice Hogs, that's it. In the AHL.
Blackhawks affiliate.
I think it was 2009 and 10. So he took an off year. He took a year off after playing in the Kings organization.
Dan, I'm sorry to hear all that, brother. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Dan Cloutier.
Yeah, in conclusion, you're too good at this game because you're gonna get the last one like in half a second.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So the third and final random LA King. Let's make this a little harder. I'm going to kind of go backwards in the hints here.
Okay.
He did in his final season in pro hockey. I believe he's retired now. Someone can quote me if I'm wrong later. But he did play 15 games for the Ontario Reign in 21-22. And he played for the Kings in 08-09 through 2012-2013.
Okay, so finish his career with the Reign in 2022?
21-22. Only 15 games on a loan.
On a loan. Okay, and then he played for the Kings from 2000 what?
2008 9 to 12, 13.
Okay, so he won a cup.
He played in the Kings system.
So he was up and down.
I don't think he was ever up.
Does he have NHL games under his belt?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot.
Hmm.
Let me see how many, actually.
Was it Jordan Nolan?
Mm-mm.
No, Jordan Nolan was not drafted. I'm better than that. Erase that answer from the record. Okay, so was he drafted by LA?
He was drafted by LA.
Came back on a loan in 2022. Oof. That's what's kind of throwing me off. So he was drafted by LA?
Yes, drafted by the LA Kings.
Drafted by the Kings in 2008.
And if my research is correct, I don't think he made his NHL debut with the Kings.
Huh. What? This is really throwing me off. Oh, no. It's not Thomas Hickey. 2008 draft.
2000, let me see.
I gotta start writing this.
2007 draft.
2007 draft. Was he a first rounder?
Yeah, I'll stop there. Well, you said it already. It's Thomas Hickey.
It is Thomas Hickey.
Yeah.
Oh,
Drafted 2007 4th overall.
this is the Thomas Hickey that we drafted over like Eric Carlson, right?
Over the likes of Jakub Voracek, Logan Couture, and then if we're going defensemen like Ryan McDonough and Kevin Shattenkirk.
Oh my God. Unless it was on a silver platter like Kopitar and Doughty.
And he made his NHL debut with the Islanders.
Yeah, that's why I was guessing Thomas Hickey, because I know he played a couple games, and I don't remember him like
claimed off the waiver wire by New York from LA.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember him coming back on loan, but I do remember him coming back to the Kings organization at some point. So the three random LA Kings were Thomas Hickey, Dan Cloutier, and
Oscar Moeller. You're too good at this game. I'm going to say it for the 4th time.
Yeah, some guys just want it more. So yeah, that was Name the Random LA King. The leaderboard is myself, 3 out of 3 so far in 2024, 25, and Jordan 1 out of 3 after what now looks like a lowly performance on your end after I did what I just did.
I thought the Dan Cloutier one was going to be a little bit harder, to be honest.
No,
I'm surprised the Hickey one was the hardest, but I kind of, messed around with the hints there.
Yeah, I think there was. I honestly think you could have made it even harder with the Thomas Hickey one. I think Cloutier would have probably been easier for me than Hickey, because the Kings, when the Kings were going on all those cup runs, like I can't remember any of those drafts. I really can't. Because I wasn't worried about the draft. We were worried about winning Stanley Cups. So that was the segment. That is the end of the show. Next time you hear from us, the Kings are going to be playing the games that matter. So on behalf of all of us here at Forum Blues, I've been your host, Rudy Hodgson. He's been your host, Jordan McConney. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you give us 5 stars on Spotify. Make sure you do all the cool, great things on Apple TV or wherever you get your podcast. Share it. We'll see you next week. It's for real on the 10th. Thanks for tuning in. Go Kings, go.